towards heaven. Someone who's in control, make that come back up. Thank you. I don't know how to use this thing clearly. So this is what comes up if you do a Google image search of heaven. And this makes me really sad. Because I look at this and I think, that looks really boring. And it looks especially boring because if you were to do a Google image search of most beautiful places on earth, then you would get a slide that looks like this. And Stevie, are you controlling this for me? You got me, buddy. I appreciate it. These are some of the most beautiful places on earth. So, beautiful places on earth, stunning. Heaven, boring. And I just told you that you guys are citizens of heaven. So go to the next one for me, Stevie. So if this is kind of our image of heaven, I want you to picture that I have a citizen of heaven right here. Okay, that guy's standing right here. And I've got a citizen of earth, and he's standing right here. And the citizen of earth is like, oh man, you're a citizen of heaven? Awesome. What's it like in heaven? The citizen of heaven is like, well, it's kind of hard to describe. The citizen of earth would go, is it colorful like earth? Because on earth we've got like red and yellow and fuchsia and magenta and aquamarine and burnt orange, and we've got all these really cool colors. What do you have in heaven? And the citizen of heaven would be like, white, but also grayish white, and also blue. And the citizen of earth would be like, oh, well, that's okay. I mean, you've got those colors too, but I bet you there's like really awesome stuff in heaven. Because we've got like mountains and sunsets, we've got cities, we've got giraffes and chimpanzees. What do you have in heaven? And the citizen of heaven would be like, oh yeah, clouds, but sometimes park benches, and sun rays. The citizen of earth would be like, oh, well, we've got all those things too, but I bet you do really cool things in heaven, right? Because like on earth, we sing and dance and eat and run and play, and the citizen of heaven would be like, well, we sit on the park benches sometimes. Sometimes there's even another person there. And if we get bored of sitting on the park benches, then we can go and we can walk up big flights of stairs. And what you end up with is an image that the prayer, I want things to be on earth as they are in heaven. If you've got this image of heaven, which is not it, if you've got this, you're like, I don't want to pray that. Because earth is really beautiful a lot of times. And heaven, if this is it, looks kind of boring. And it looks like a lot of the great things about earth are gone. So why would anybody ever even think this way? Okay, the reason why sometimes people think this way about heaven is because if we're honest with ourselves, when we Google the most beautiful places on earth, we get an amazing array of beauty. But if I were to just Google the images of the last couple of weeks on earth, here's some of the things that I got. So if you go a couple slides forward, I got wildfires and floods. I got war and conflict. So the earth is a really beautiful place, right? It's got mountains and rivers and sunsets and strawberries, but it's also got violence and hatred and discord and jealousy and anger and fear and stress and anxiety. So you can skip off that slide. What I realized is we have to have an idea of what's going on in both of these places. If we're going to be people who pray, we want things to be on earth like they are in heaven, we have to have an idea of what's going on here. And one author more than any other has helped me grasp a little bit of what the relationship between heaven and earth is like. His name is N.T. Wright, and I'm going to put a passage up here that's something that he said. He said this about heaven and earth. We have been used to seeing heaven as a place separated from earth, somewhere far away, way beyond the blue, but that's not how the Bible sees it, not at all. Heaven is God's space, and earth is our space. The heavens belong to Yahweh, declares the psalmist, and the earth has been given to the human race. But the point of God's split-level good creation, heaven and earth, is not that earth is a kind of training ground for heaven, but that heaven and earth are designed to overlap and interlock. I love that phrase at the end, overlap and interlock. Heaven and earth are meant to come together. Heaven is not some far-off place in the blue that we have to hope to be good enough to get to one day and leave all of the good things of earth behind and we never see them again. The description of heaven is that heaven and earth are meant to come together. You guys listen to me here. We do not participate in a faith that says my job is to get my act together and be good enough so that one day I can leave this place behind and be good enough to go live in the clouds. We participate in a faith where the God of the universe says, I'm coming to you. We serve a God who became flesh and said, I'm bringing heaven to earth. I'm going to show you what heaven is really like by walking among you. We just sang this song about the reckless love of Jesus, where Jesus says, I am coming to rescue you and no barrier can stop me. I'm bringing heaven here. Not about us getting away, not about us floating up into the clouds somewhere. It's about God bringing his reality into ours. The place where God dwells, coming to the place where humans dwell. That is the faith of Christianity. And if you're somebody who hasn't embraced it yet, you need to hear that. Maybe you're not a Christian in this room and you're thinking, my job is to be good enough to get there. And no, it's not it. Jesus is saying, I want to come and I want to live with you so that I can make you more like me. That's what it's all about. So then how do we live? That's ultimately the question. If I'm a citizen of heaven, how do we live on earth as a citizen of heaven? I want to put up one more slide. And this is a slide that I think tells us a little bit more about what heaven is like. And it's filled with values and virtues of the kingdom. I only put 7 up there. I could have put a lot more. And over the course of this semester, these and others are going to be our monthly themes. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, you know what the kingdom coming to earth means? This kingdom isn't a kingdom of floating on clouds in the sky. It's certainly not sitting on park benches. The kingdom of God is a kingdom of justice and beauty and peace and compassion and truth and humility and grace and so many other beautiful things. And when we say God's kingdom come, when we say heaven come to earth, what we're saying is we want the earth to be filled with those things. So I want to tell you some good news. One day, God will return, and he will come and live with us, and all of these things will overflow our world perfectly. You can keep them up there. This is what the world will look like one day. Completely filled with grace, completely filled with justice, totally filled with peace. Here's how the Bible describes it in Revelation. It says God's dwelling place will be among the people. He will dwell with them. They will be his people, and he will be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. Here's what's coming one day. All of these things will flow into earth as God returns, because God is filled with these things. And all the beauty of earth will be transformed and redeemed, and all the pain of earth will be gone. That is an amazing day. But in the meantime, do you know where God dwells? He dwells in each one of you who is a follower of Christ. And what that means is that every single one of us who has received Jesus is filled with grace, and filled with justice, and filled with beauty, and filled with truth. And so do you know how God's kingdom comes here? It comes through us. And so this whole year, we will be asking the question, how can we be people who receive the things of heaven, who receive the beauty of heaven, and share it to the world around us? How can we be people of justice and grace and compassion and beauty because we have received those things from God? The last thing I'll say is this. The verse ends by saying that our prayer is that God's kingdom would come and his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But that's a pretty big task, right? For any one of us, or even this whole community, to change the whole world is pretty tough. So I would encourage you to shrink the scope of that prayer. And maybe this is your prayer. Jesus, your kingdom come in Peachtree Corners as it is in heaven. If you're a teacher, maybe you say, Jesus, your justice come in Wesleyan 182. That's my classroom, as it is in heaven. Maybe as a parent or a child, you say, you know what? God, your grace come to 3635 Spalding Terrace as it is in heaven, to my address. Or maybe you're somebody who hasn't yet accepted Christ, and what you actually need to say today is, Jesus, your kingdom come in me as it is in heaven, because I want to be filled with all of those things. You guys, we as a community, all of us here, may not be able to change the entire world this year, but we can change Peachtree Corners. And we can change Wesleyan. And we can be a community that brings grace and peace and truth and justice to all the people around us. His kingdom come. His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. At Wesleyan as it is